My name's John Thomson. You might know me better as Uncle John, and I am the owner and operator of Uncle John's Arm Wrestling Show. I got introduced to arm wrestling in a way that I think a lot of people did in the early 2010s. I was just cruising Netflix, and I saw Pulling John. And I watched the whole thing, and it was the first time that I realized that arm wrestling was a actual sport, that you could compete in it. And immediately after I watched it, I found a group in Minnesota, and that was 10 years ago. I've been pulling almost every single day of my life since.
10 years ago, cruising Netflix.
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 Netflix. It was Pulling John was on Netflix. Yeah.
Was Netflix up in 10 years ago?
Yes.
Really?
Because before it was, I think in like Netflix started.
You could order.
You could order, and it was in the early days. Because you see, I live in North America, the land of the home and the free.
Oh, makes sense.
Where we're very powerful with our streaming capabilities.
Yes.
So yes, it was because I had my first tournament in 2000. So it was maybe 2011 because I had my first tournament in December of 2011, and I started pulling in the summer of that. So it was probably the summer of 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
Okay, so good 10 years.
Yeah.
Going for 12, 11. Going for 11.
Going for 11 this year.
Okay. So, who was your biggest influence in arm wrestling? It can be someone, local. It doesn't have to be some big superstar, but your biggest influence in arm wrestling.
There's a lot of guys who I have tried to, emulate and follow and just try to absorb from them. But the biggest guys, I would say, number one would be Devin. Devin, me living in Canada and being in close proximity to Devin, I follow a lot of what he does. I train a lot of the ways he does. But my style is not necessarily very Devin. My style is very much based on Cobra Rhodes. Cobra, long before, like I'm good friends with Cobra right now, and for the last year or two, we've been really close, and that's been amazing. But long before I met Cobra, I was looking at what he was doing with his hand. And if you take time and you go back and you look at Cobra Rhodes and what he does, it's something very unique. It's something that a lot of arm wrestlers do not do or can't do or won't do. And I don't do exactly what Cobra does, but what I've done is I've adapted some of the key points and some of the key philosophies that he's taught me over the last couple of years into what I was already doing. So I would say number one overall, Cobra Rhodes.
Okay.
The best match that I've ever had is always hopefully the next one. But I've had some really good matches at the Canadian National Championships. I've had, one of my earliest big matches was against Harold Owens from the U.S. Big, huge, massive guy. I was relatively new in the sport. It was at the United States Nationals. This was probably like 2013, 2014. And it was my first left-handed win in the super heavyweights against someone who was like known. And people were like, well, that's Harold. Like Harold's a legit guy. And I beat him left-handed. And that moment, that feeling, I wouldn't say the match was like, grade A match, but the feeling and the nostalgia. And when I think back to that, that was the first time where I was like, arm wrestling for me is going to be happening for a long time because I chase that feeling. And you should chase that feeling too, because once you get it, you can do anything in your life, man. All you need is a little bit of that feeling, and remembering that feeling will fuel you through training. It'll fuel you through tournaments. It's one of the best things you can possibly have happen. Best match I've ever seen in person.
The match that gives you goosebumps that you think about quite some time after? You're like,
oh God, I gotta think about this one a little bit, because there has been, okay, I'm trying to think of, because I've been to like the Arnold Classic multiple times. I've been to the Mike Gould Classic before, so I've been to Arm Wars before, so I've seen some really quite good matches. One of the one that pops into my mind right away was the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio, probably 2014-ish, maybe 2013, and it was the lightweights, and it was Corey Miller versus Cobra Rhodes in the final. And the setup was everybody would like Corey was on an absolute tear, and everybody was like, "This is Corey's year. This is Corey's year." And Cobra Rhodes came in, and turns out it was Cobra Rhodes' year. And that win and the way Cobra reacted to the win, I knew how much it felt, or how much it meant to him to be able to do that. And it was a great match. And the story, to me, it's the stories that build up to those matches to make the results of them even better. So that's the one that pops out in my mind first. My top three arm wrestlers of all time. If I take into account my personal feelings,
It should be just your personal.
just my personal feelings, then we're gonna go Cobra, Devin, Cobra, Devin, and then it gets a little murky, but I will go with Neil Pickup. Because Neil Pickup versus Monster Michael Todd at Arm Wars left-handed was my favorite match of all time that I wasn't there for. Go look that up right now. It's stupid. Hooker top roll, and why? Top roll, because that's the way my hand works. But top roll because it's more artful. If you're an intellectual, if you really want to get ahead in your life, don't be like a Fred Flintstone and just hook your life away. You're wasting your life with that stuff. Be an artist. Be a master of your craft. Take your opponent's hand, crush it to dust, pronate right through, and you'll be a better man for it. Why do I arm wrestle? Why don't I arm wrestle might be an easier question to answer. But why do I arm wrestle? Because arm wrestling has given me my life that I currently live, right? When I started arm wrestling, I was over 300 pounds, morbidly obese. And it's because of arm wrestling that I am in the condition that I am now. It's because of arm wrestling that I am absolutely obsessed with the gym. It's because of arm wrestling that I am hanging and banging every day of the week. It's because of arm wrestling that I started Uncle John. It's because of arm wrestling that I know Coach Ray, that I know Neil Pickup, that I know Cobra Rhodes, that I have, the friends that I do. Arm wrestling has given me and afforded me the life that I currently live. So for me, arm wrestling, it's not an active thing that I think about, it's just what I do. So my best advice for a beginner, somebody new to the sport, number one, dedicate yourself to the long haul. Arm wrestling is not something that will happen for you tomorrow. You might start off really good, you might start off really bad. The point is, to get to where you want to go will take time regardless. You need to be okay with the idea that this is going to take a lot of pain. You got to get comfortable with that pain and get comfortable with the idea that it's a long period of time. That's number one. Number two, don't even think about arm wrestling me. I will slap you into the next universe. So before you call me out, give your head a little bit of a shake, because I'm telling you now, it's gonna be a long day, buddy. Why do I love arm wrestling? I love arm wrestling for a couple different reasons. One, the guys. We are all idiots. We are all weirdos. We are all nutters. But there's something magical and there's something special when we all come together. That's why there's nothing I love more than coming to Arm Wars, because everybody's here for the same reason. Everybody knows what it takes to compete at this level, and we all have the similar mindset. And that's the thing in my life. I always struggled to try to find people that look at living life the similar way that I do. And a lot of people that don't arm wrestle, they don't look at life like we do. They don't. And I don't know if I could actually put my finger on what it is about us that brings us together, but we are the only people on this planet that can go and literally try to destroy each other on a table and have 20 minutes of pure just angst and pain and fear and anger and power, and shake hands at the end of it and go right back to having a beer afterwards. And that's probably what I love most about it.